as Julieta was carrying the Sefer Torah, I was reminded of something that I've heard that Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach said when asked if women should be allowed to carry the Torah. He said, well, they're allowed to carry our babies. They must be allowed to carry the Sefer Torah. So I said, Shlomo Carlebach, I said. So, Bershut Maranan, with your permission, I thought how awkward to be teaching Torah with you in back of me, and yet I realize I'm always teaching Torah with you in back of me. With Reb Arthur, with you and all your teachers, and all the way back to Moshe Rabbeinu and Eve as well. And so I stand on your shoulder, but I hope that as I teach before you that you see through my eyes one more generation. So, Reb David asked us to keep this short. He said you could have a choice. You can do haiku, you can do it while you stand on one foot, or you can tweet. I did it, and I did at Wellsprings. I tweeted it, #Emor. Begins with the consummate insiders, ends with the ultimate outsider, challenges us to bring the outsiders inside. So if we think of it, this parsha begins with the consummate insiders, the Kohanim, the priests. They're the people on the inside. They're there at the heart of the camp. They enter the holiest spaces in the temple. They say the holiest name. And so they have to keep themselves in touch with life, aligned with life and pure. And I also always think of a teaching of Reb Zalman when I see this parsha, because it says they can't be in contact with the dead, usually on normal circumstances. On certain occasions they may. And Reb Zalman shared a teaching, again of Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, that after the Shoah, after the Holocaust, our own teachers had been in so much contact with death, and we were so burdened with death, that many of our young people then went and sought teachers in the East, people who had not been tainted with death. And it's our job then to bring those outsiders inside. So those are the insiders. But unfortunately, this Parshat Emor ends with the ultimate outsider, and that is the Ben Ish Mitzri, the son of an Egyptian man and an Israelite woman, whose name is Shlomit Bat Divri from the tribe of Dan. I don't know if they're related to Danan, but this is such a difficult episode. It's the thing I would never give to a bar mitzvah student. I say, read the nice things about the holidays that are in here, but it's really tragic. And I couldn't understand, why is this man being singled out? Why does it refer to his lineage in this degrading way? Sort of, he's an outsider. I heard a Dvar Torah by Rabbi Alex Israel from Pardes Institute sharing some of the Midrashim, of why they mention this. He's the son of an Egyptian man, because the Midrash says he is the son of that very Egyptian man that Moshe Rabbeinu killed, according to one Midrash. And he killed this man because he knew that not only was he beating the Hebrew, but in fact, according to the Midrash, that the Egyptian man had raped the wife of the Hebrew slave. And that probably was not an unusual occurrence for women, of course, living under slavery. So thinking about this woman raising her son on her own, the tradition seems to single her out, as if she was the only one, but there were probably many. Sometimes tradition critiques her in the most painful way. Says, her name Shlomit, she was always saying shalom to everybody. Bat Divri, she was a chatterbox, medaberet. Maybe she was kind of asking for it. How painful. And they were rejected. So it says that he went out. He's the outsider. He goes out. He gets in a fight. Why did he get in a fight? One answer from the Midrash is because those in the tribe of Dan wouldn't give him a place to camp with them. They said, your father's not from our tribe. Well, my mother is. We don't want you. I think of their loneliness. Even the preceding commandment is about Shabbat and the challah, the candles, thinking of them never being invited for Shabbat dinner. And finally, he can't take it anymore. He gets in a fight, and he blasphemes God, as he pierces God's name, it says, and he curses. And then he's taken into custody, and then he's taken outside the camp. They lay on their hands, and they stone him to death. That's the end of the parsha. Well, So think of the contrast. The insiders are those Kohanim. They're on the inside, they're close. We lay our hands on them to give them smicha. They're aligned with life. They raise up God's name. They sanctify God's name. And here's the outsider. He's outside. They take him outside the camp and lay on their hands in order to execute him because he pierced God's name. And then he's aligned with death. So the challenge is how, and Rabbi Alex Israel mentioned this, how do we counteract this? How do we make a tikkun for this? We need to welcome in the people that feel like outsiders for whatever reason, whether it's their lineage or whatever other reason it may be. And here, Reb Zalman has been our teacher. Even talking about those who don't feel themselves quite Jewish, how do we include them as Gerei Toshav or part of our community? We want to be welcoming, but every shul in America says we're warm and welcoming. My shul says that on our website. Every shul says that. It's more than that. We think about those who have been spectacular, things that work, are things that make the outsiders feel like insiders. Rabbi Daniel Hartman says, Birthright Israel, the secret of it is making outsiders insiders. Chabad, radical hospitality, making outsiders insiders. And I work with the National Jewish Outreach Program on the holidays, making the outsiders insiders. So I would like to today give you smicha to make all of you insiders, to give you the smicha, to put my heart with you and my hands on you, to be Kohanim of life, to stand for life, to stand for inclusion and welcome. When you see someone who feels on the outside, think, what is one step I can do to bring them one step closer to the inside? And then, through this, we will be sanctifying God's name. Kedushat Hashem.
Amen.